You're about to enter the Atomic Voodoo Lounge, New Stanton's one and only surreal dive bar, bringing you beauty and magic and terahertz tragic. I'm Maxwell Vegas, writer, poet, musician, and author of the soon-to-be-published novel, New Stanton. Descend with me into the static buzz of late-night radio, where words and music swirl through neon dreams and drift like cigarette smoke out over dried-up prehistoric seas. Welcome to the second episode of the Atomic Voodoo Lounge podcast's second season. Thank you. A lot of seconds in there. Firsts are a bit beyond my reach at this point. Someday, but keep in mind, dearest listeners, you'll always be number one in my book. So take your place at the bar, relax, order a drink, enjoy the show. I'm Maxwell Vegas, and tonight we'll have music from the Healing Gems, the Other Timelines, and the 4D Man teaming up, fiery short fiction from John Alea, more New Stanton noir 6-word stories, and poetry by yours truly, Maxwell Vegas.
Come on, I need that liquor. I want it and I'm gonna get it, understand?
Oh, I certainly do. Since John Alea's story Shroud of Idolatry is bringing the heat this evening, I've come up with an appropriate cocktail, one that will help battle those sub-zero temps attacking the Northeast. It's called the Sunstrike, a sharp, sun-baked cocktail with desert citrus, prickly heat, and a dry, saline edge. It hits like stepping out of shade into brutal sunlight. Who wouldn't like that right about now? Here's what you'll need. 2 ounces of Blanco tequila, ½ ounce grapefruit juice, ½ ounce lime juice, ½ ounce agave syrup, 2 to 3 drops of hot sauce or a pinch of chili flakes, 1 small pinch of sea salt, and for garnish, grapefruit peel or a thin jalapeno slice. Add tequila, grapefruit, lime, agave, hot sauce, and sea salt to a shaker with ice. Shake hard until cold and slightly frothy. Strain into a chilled rocks glass over fresh ice. Garnish with the grapefruit peel or the jalapeno slice. I'm sure the bright, dry, saline, citrus hot flavor will help keep the cold away. The nuclear winter of our discontent. You know, playing video games back in the 80s was something. And when you mix that up with being stuck in the house during cold winter days, well, it was magic. Plus, you had to just kind of put aside the fact that somebody was going to push a button sooner or later and kill us all. Here is my tribute to such days and such attitudes and such wonderful times. Missile Command by Maxwell Vegas. On cold winter afternoons, we welcomed Krytal's missiles with wide eyes and joysticks until only one city remained. The end fell from the sky, helpless to defend Zardon's electronic landscape. Missile upon missile, the sound bore down, and the screen flashed our death. On some Saturday afternoon, as a kid in the early 1980s. Nothing like making beeps, bops, and boops sound grandiose. While we're on the topic of video games, here's another poem, The Unsuspecting. The Unsuspecting by Maxwell Vegas. I grow so tired of that old cliche populating science fiction, comic books, and video games. The one where some mad scientist or evil corporation creates a gateway to hell and outpour the demons. When will someone puncture a hole into heaven, releasing angels to overrun the unsuspecting? That's exactly what we need. A hole punched into heaven. I think that's the only thing that's going to work. Now for some appropriate music. This comes from The Other Timelines and the 4D Man, off of Music for Alternate Realities Volume 1, Dyslexic Cinema.
Energy. Energy.
Existence is nothing but a vibration. For years, those who believe have claimed it. Apparitions, merely ripples in electromagnetic fields.
That was Dyslexic Cinema, off of Music for Alternate Realities Volume 1 by The Other Timelines and the 4D Man. Check them out on Bandcamp. They're available under Taboo Recordings or houseoftaboo.com. Shady by Mad Gravity Studio. That means it's 6-word noir time. Tonight I'm continuing my New Stanton Noir with Late Night New Stanton Noir 2. Snow Globe Dreams, the electromagnetic hour. DJ Otto broadcasts across New Stanton. 540 WHDS AM. Crackles the night. Insomniacs, where would you rather be? Beauty and magic, and terahertz tragic. Whistling past the graveyard, Mr. Dean? beneath, her eyes spiraling neural electricity. Pale lips taunting, despite my hands. I do the work of angels. Angels, huh? More like a devil. Sometimes, Mr. Dean, you can't tell. Deus Ex Machina, Freytag hates them. I prefer eucatastrophe myself, Harold. Yeah, until it happens to you. But was that you? Or me? That's my series of 6-word noir stories that I'm calling Late Night, New Stanton Noir 2. Think you can do better? Well, maybe you can. That's why I'm sending out the Maxwell Vegas Challenge to all of my Substack subscribers.
I'd sit in front of that typewriter trying to squeeze out one page that was halfway decent.
Half a page? A whole page? Nah, 6 words. Come up with your best 6-word story with a touch of noir, speculative, liminal, surreal, horror, what have you, and drop it in the chat area of my Substack. And remember, the Atomic Voodoo Lounge is free to subscribe to, as in totally free. You get it all for free. I'm giving it away, folks. Here's Naked City by Healing Gems off of their LP In the Mood 2025, courtesy of Green Cookie Records. Peeling Gems with Naked City. Check them out on Bandcamp, Apple Music, Spotify, and greencookie.gr. Tonight's featured story, Shroud of Idolatry, comes from a terrific writer I found on Substack. This piece brings the heat in more ways than one, and is the beginning of a fantasy work that hints at the evil that lurks among us. Shroud of Idolatry by John Michael Alea. Chapter 1. The African hut's interior walls stretched vast and circular, disappearing into shadows no firelight could dispel, as smoke coiled upward from the hut's central pit. The serpent-like tendrils, redolent with burning herbs and decaying meats, substances meant to open doorways. Doorways better left locked and barred. It held and intensified the heat against the cold sting of desert night. She sat elevated above them all, a figure carved in the flickering darkness. Her scalp gleamed in the strobing light, smooth and sleek as a river stone. Once, perhaps, there had been warmth in those eyes. Once, perhaps, she had been wholly human. Here, they held only vacancy, a terrible emptiness suggesting she was a shell for something older, something patient and hungry. She sat upon a monument to death, one built of bones, leopard and buffalo, antelope and hyena, the sinew and pelts of once mighty creatures. She wore little else but that throne's authority and the metal sphere that hung between her breasts, suspended by a cord of braided leather. The container was ancient, older than memory, inscribed with symbols predating any language spoken in these lands, symbols shifting and writhing when the firelight caught them. Before her, the tribe knelt, 37 souls, men and women, once neighbors, friends, even lovers. They swayed in unison, their voices rising in a chant that belonged to no tongue meant for human mouths. The syllables came harsh and guttural, scraping against the throat, leaving only the taste of copper and ashes. She rose, extending her arms outward in a fluid, unhurried movement, palms facing the congregation. She spread her fingers into the points of darkened stars. The metal sphere at her chest began to vibrate, a sound that resonated in the bones and the teeth, in the spaces between brain cells. The chanting intensified, and the tribe began to move. At first, the dance was ritualistic and beautiful. Bodies swayed in serpentine rhythms, hips rolling in ancient patterns, evoking feelings of fertility and creation, the eternal cycles of life. Hands traced curves through smoke-thick air, palms sliding along torsos and movements, both intimate and selfish. They circled one another, advanced and retreated, their bare feet drumming against the packed earth in hypnotic cadence. Backs arched, shoulders rolled. The movements were primal, sensual, a celebration of flesh and desire rendered in motion. The dance continued, but the movements grew more exaggerated, more intertwining. What had been sinuous and flowing became sharp-edged and aggressive. Bodies no longer swayed, they jerked and twisted. The intimate gestures transformed into something possessive. Fingers tracing curves, now clawed. Rolling hips thrust with violent emphasis, each movement an act of domination and lust rather than communion. The rhythm changed, faster, harder. The drumming of feet became a ferocious stomping, rippling the earth with vibrations beneath them. The dance was no longer about creation, but about consumption, about taking. The circles tightened, bodies pressing closer, the space between them charged with something dark and hungry. Penetration, faces contorted, not with pleasure, but with rage, with a building fury buried beneath skin and civility, waiting for permission to emerge. A crude sexual explosion, one where sweat and tears interwove, weaving moans of pleasure and screams of exquisite agonies. They began to collide rather than caress as shoulders slammed together, bodies crashed and rebounded. The dance had become a battle disguised as ritual. Each movement bled with contained violence. Their eyes rolled back, showing their whites, lips pulled back, revealing teeth held in grimaces of blended ecstasy and pain. Spittle flew from their mouths, forming minute puddles of agony upon the flattened earthen floor, their faces emotionless, as empty as their eyes. Drool seeped from the corners of her inhuman smile as the metal sphere grew hot with a hellish glow. And then the restraint shattered completely. The tribe moved as one body possessed of many minds, each surrendering to impulses that bubbled up from some primal depth. Teeth tore through flesh, fingers buried deep into tissues, splitting skin in search of the freshest meat. The carefully maintained evolution of their civilization, already thin in this isolated place, dissolved entirely. They became creatures of appetite alone, ravenous for flesh, for power, to feed some insatiable urge. She watched as they fed. Her smile, the barest curve of lips, stretched into a crescent moon of malice. All the fear and ecstasy, the pains and pleasures, the final gasps of the dying, along with the savage cries of the triumphant, all of it flowed toward her like a river as the metal sphere blazed hot against her skin, drinking deep. Her eyes ignited, deep crimson and pure black spilling from the pupils, spreading until her gaze burned with infernal radiance. Her body swelled with terrible presence, an expansion of being, filling more space than her physical form should allow. She was feeding. Like an afterthought, flames licked up the reed walls and clung to the thatched ceiling, spreading with hungry speed through black smoke. Screams of raw terror tore through the surviving tribe as they realized what they had taken part in, what they had become, what they had done. She settled back into her throne of bones. Bodies thrashed and then fell still. Heat waves shimmered, separating her and the destruction. No fear touched those glowing eyes. No concern creased that smooth brow. She simply watched her tribe burn, watched as her temple crumbled, observed the culmination of her dark hunger with a patience perfected by centuries, and could now wait for centuries more. Yet, her smile never faltered. When the roof collapsed inward in a shower of sparks and smoldering timbers, when the walls buckled and the screaming had long since ceased, only she remained, untouched, unchanged. The metal sphere at her chest pulsed with a satisfied warmth, gorged on the feast of debauchery she had offered it. Support beams cracked and splintered, sending cascades of embers into the air like malevolent fireflies. The heat was unbearable. It seared lungs and melted flesh from bone, yet she sat serene in her throne, a dark queen in her burning palace, as though the flames recognized her sovereignty and dared not touch her. The power coursed through her veins like molten gold, filled spaces left hollow for far too long. How many times had she done this? How many tribes, how many villages, how many civilizations had been consumed in the endless wandering? She had lost count centuries ago, millennia perhaps. Time was meaningless, a bore when you carried eternity in your mind. The metal sphere had cooled, its hunger temporarily sated. The souls within stirred, clawing at its etched steel walls. 37 voices occupied the void, already screaming in that impossible space. Their essence would sustain her, fueling the next migration, the next seduction, the next harvest. It was always the same pattern. Arrive, assimilate, corrupt, consume, move on. She'd worn the face of many things during her long existence. A goddess, a demon, a prophet, a witch. The names changed, but the function remained constant. She was hunger given purpose. She was the shadow that follows faith into darkness. She was the price paid for power when desperation outweighed wisdom. The tribe had fallen particularly easily. Their previous leader, a man of genuine spiritual strength, died 6 months before from a serpent bite. The community was left fractured, uncertain, vulnerable. She appeared on a night much like this one, cold and clear, the stars scattered across the sky like shattered diamonds. She came with gifts, knowledge of herbs that eased pain, techniques that improved their hunting, stories that made them laugh and dream. Along with her came an unseen passenger, and it would revel in their praise. They welcomed her, gave her shelter, gave her trust. Sheep for the slaughter. She took her time, weaving herself into their daily rituals, their ceremonies, their prayers. She spoke the words they needed to hear, performed the miracles they needed to see. When they made her their leader, their spiritual guide, they did so with joy and relief. They thought she would protect them, lead them into prosperity. And she led them, certainly. The walls finally gave way, collapsing outward in a bloom of fire and smoke. The cool night air rushed in, fueling the inferno, turning the entire structure into a massive pyre. Through the opening, the desert stretched endlessly in all directions, painted silver by the full moon. Somewhere out there, another village waited. Another community, ripe for the harvest. But she was patient. She mastered patience when the world was young and humans still painted their stories on cave walls. Haste led to mistakes, and mistakes led to exposure. She had been exposed before, burned at stakes, drowned in rivers, buried alive, torn apart by mobs. None of it had killed her. Nothing could kill her. Not truly. He wouldn't allow it. But it was inconvenient for him, and it disrupted his feeding. Better to move slowly, to be thorough, to leave no witnesses, almost no witnesses. She opened her eyes, that hellish red glow dimming to something more human, more manageable. The sphere at her chest calmed and lay dark and icy against her chocolate skin. She felt the first stirrings of hunger beginning again, but not with the bite of desperation yet, just present. A reminder that her appetite was infinite, that satisfaction was always temporary. She stood, the bones of her throne creaking beneath her. The fire began to die down, having consumed everything flammable. Soon, there would be nothing left but ash and charred bone. The desert wind would scatter the evidence, and the story would become legend, then myth, then forgotten entirely, as it always did. She stepped down from the throne, her bare feet finding purchase on the scorched earth. The metal sphere swung gently between her breasts, a pendulum counting time that meant nothing to her. She walked through the burning debris, flames parting like subjects before a queen, her skin unmarred, body untouched by heat, the smoke, or destruction. She moved on. The furs at her hips fell to ash and scattered in the wind. Outside, the night was cold and clear. Standing stoic at the threshold of the ruined hut, her eyes turned, looking back one final time at her work. 37 souls consumed, 37 voices contained at her feast, 37 lives ended to sustain one that should have ended long ago. Guilt and remorse were human emotions, and she was no longer human. She was beyond such things now, beyond mortality, beyond judgment, beyond everything but the satisfaction of the hunger. She stood naked in the moonlight, enjoying the satisfaction of a meal well consumed. In the morning, a traveling mission would find only ash and bones being picked clean by scavenging wildlife, and a sole survivor with no explanation. They would speak of tragedy, of tribal war, of the mysterious ways of the people here. They would not know, could not know, that she had fed and walked out through flames that parted before her like curtains, carrying with her a terrible hunger, satiated for the time. She turned away from the dying fire and began to walk. The desert stretched before her, vast and indifferent. Somewhere in that emptiness, she would select a new land, a new people. Her body was tired and deflated. She had long been driven mad and consumed. The husk could only be sustained for so long before it would need to migrate. But she would do for a while. It would hunger again, but it was patient. It was eternal. It was not human. It knew of their God and the power that he held over his people. It had tasted that power once, long ago, and found it wanting. Their God demanded faith, obedience, sacrifice, but he gave nothing in return, only empty promises and hope. It demanded the same things, but at least it was honest about the price. The missionaries would arrive with the dawn, full of their righteous purpose and their holy texts. They would find the destruction and weep. They would pray for the lost souls, and they would never suspect that their next convert, the traumatized survivor they would take under their wing, was the very thing their scriptures warned them about. She smiled in the darkness, and it was never satisfied for long. But the next meal stood before it, not yet visible on the horizon, but coming. They always came. They came to save the lost, to bring light to darkness, to spread their gospel of salvation. They never realized they were simply delivering themselves to its doorstep. The metal sphere pulsed once against her chest, a heartbeat of dark contentment. 37 souls to sustain her, but 37 would not last forever. Nothing lasted forever except it, and the hunger, and the endless cycle of consumption that ruled over her existence. She walked on into the desert night, leaving smoke, ash, and the lingering scent of burned flesh in her wake. Behind her, the fire finally died, plunging the ruin into darkness. And before her, somewhere beyond the horizon, the missionaries continued their journey toward her, believing they carried salvation. John Michael Alea is a writer of thrillers and horror fiction whose work explores the darker edges of human nature where fear, suspense, and moral ambiguity collide. Drawn to stories that linger long after the final page, he blends psychological tension with unsettling characters to create narratives that challenge readers to keep turning the pages late into the night. His first novel, The Confession, Justice in Blood, was released in January and marks the beginning of a body of work shaped by a lifelong fascination with suspenseful storytelling, classic horror, and modern thrillers. When he's not writing, he enjoys studying existing works, dissecting films and novels for what makes them frightening, while searching for the quiet, internal moments where the most terrifying ideas are born. He lives on Long Island, New York with his wife and 3 children and is currently at work on his next 2 novels. You can view some of his work on his Substack page and join his newsletter to keep up to date on new projects. Go to substack.com/@JohnMichaelAlea or find him on social media, Instagram @ASHBOLEA or @JMAWRITESBOOKS. On Facebook, you can find him at facebook.com/ASHBOLEA. Coming soon from Heavy Sixer Productions, New Stanton, a novel by Maxwell Vegas. Mr. Harold Dean, a shady alcoholic, just woke up with one hell of a hangover at the Starlight Inn, New Stanton's dingy motel. The only problem is, New Stanton doesn't exist. Join Mr. Dean on this postmodern night journey through buried memories, liminal spaces, and treachery as he searches for his sole means of escape, a blue 1964 Chevy Malibu. Will he be able to find his car before the evil Dr. Freytag does? Can Mr. Dean trust a host of bizarre characters to help him solve the mysteries of his own dysfunction and accept that New Stanton is exactly where he needs to be? The answer to these questions and many more lies scattered across New Stanton, a town that sits on the edge of a dried-up prehistoric sea, a town that exists inside and down.
It's like the doctor was just telling me. Delirium is a disease of the night. Good night.
Thanks for listening to the Atomic Voodoo Lounge podcast. I'm Maxwell Vegas. Remember what the man said about delirium and stay tuned for more Atomic Voodoo Lounge stories, music, poetry, and who knows what else. Our next full episode is planned for February 13th, which happens to be a Friday. So look out. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe at atomicvoodoolounge.com. I think I mentioned it's free. And spread the good word. And if you are interested in contributing or being a sponsor, drop me a line and we can discuss the particulars. And don't forget, our 6-word noir challenge is open to subscribers via the Atomic Voodoo Lounge chat. Check out the Atomic Voodoo Lounge on Substack and subscribe. Find out more about Maxwell Vegas and Heavy Sixer Productions at HeavySixerProductions.com or MaxwellVegas.com. And remember, Vegas is spelled V-A-G-U-S. A big thank you to Healing Gems and Green Cookie Records at greencookie.gr. The Other Timelines and the 4D Man from Taboo Recordings at houseoftaboo.com. Remember, taboo is spelled T-A-B-U. Mad Gravity Studio, mgstudio.org, for their song Shady, which we used under our 6-word noir stories. John Michael Alea for the short fiction Shroud of Idolatry. Some sound effects and music used under Creative Commons license. All words and music composed, read, programmed, and/or performed by Maxwell Vegas, unless otherwise stated. All text, music, and performances copyright Heavy Sixer Productions LLC 2026. No AI training, please. And remember, AtomicVoodooLounge.com.
I've never done anything, I'm not doing anything, I never will do anything. Give me a drink.